Okay, so here we are at my computer, and you can see Panel Pros right here. Now I'm assuming that you've already know how to connect JMRI to Panel Pro. I just don't want to waste the time going over that, but I will at least give a little quick overview on that just so you're aware of it. So you're going to start Panel Pro. Now this is not my layouts computer. That's in a separate building here, and that has multiple connections. I have Easy DCC for my system. I have local net for running my turnouts and signals and all that kind of stuff. And I have a Sprog for doing my programming. I also have a couple other connections. It doesn't. Those connections would all be listed here if they were connected. And to add a connection is nothing more difficult than going to edit, clicking on preference, and then selecting the system that you have. And you can see there's lots of them here. There's all you have to do is select that system and away you go. We're going to use none right now because it's just kind of helps me all the way around. And I won't have any error messages coming up, at least while I'm doing this demonstration. So once you've got that in place, the best way to make a panel is to get your turnouts in place with the tortoises, servos, whatever you're using to control them operating, and have those decoders already there, and use your throttle or your command station and ensure that the throttle and the command station can actually communicate to that decoder. Once it's communicating to that decoder and it's actually turning the turnout, we can then go into JMRI. And what I do, first of all, and this is, there's lots of ways to do this, but this is how I do it, and it just helps me kind of eliminate some of the different problems in here. If you go to Tools and you go to Tables, you're going to see that they have a whole mess of tables that you can actually form, and the one we're going to work with is turnouts. They're all basically the same type of layout when you look at them, so we're just going to click on turnouts here, and you can see they're all the same because they literally are all the same. You can still gain access to any one of them there as you're doing it. Now what we're going to do is add a turnout. For our purpose here, we're going to simply just do a sighting. I'm going to add a few more turnouts here just to show what you can do with it, but we're going to do a real simple panel here. If you have multiple systems like I do, you could select down and select the system that you want to add that turnout on. In this case here, it's internal because I don't have a system set up. I would put in the hardware address. So this is the address that your decoder recognizes, or excuse me, the command station recognizes to control that decoder. So I've used Tam Valley, so they start at 1, and I use Octa 3s, and so I can add that. If I want to add a range of them because I'm using an Octa, I can collect this box and I can say, yep, I have 8 of them there, and then I can put a username in here, and it might be yard, doesn't matter, and then I would say okay, and I can close that, and you can see there's yard 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and this is the system ID. So if this was an easy DC system that was hooked up there, it would be ET1, ET2, ET3 all the way down. If it's local net, it's LT1, LT2, LT3, whatever it is your system. The JMRI has an initial so it knows what system you're going to. Again, this is one of the powers of this thing, is you can have multiple systems hooked up together. So once I have this table built, which you saw how quick it was, the next thing I want to do is ensure that JMRI can now control that turnout through your Easy DC system, whatever you're using. And you see here it says command, and it says unknown. And we'll talk about that in a minute here, but because it doesn't know anything, it's in the unknown state, and you simply click it goes to close, and it goes to throw. What you want to do at this point in time is ensure that when it says closed, it's in the through position, and when it's in the thrown, it's in the diverge position. And you simply just go through, you can click each one of these, and voila, there should be thrown closed all the way down. So you ensure that these match. Just a little heads up here. If they don't match, there's two ways to fix that. One way is you can, of course, flip the wires if you're using a tortoise or anything like that. You simply just reverse the wires and then it'll be in the right position. Or if you're using a servo, you simply reverse the servo motor positions and voila. Although they're programmed, so just be aware that you might affect that somewhat. The other thing you can do is you simply click this inverted button, and that will literally switch it. Now, because I'm not hooked up to a system, I can't click I have no connection to that inverted button, but you would simply click it and it would invert it. Just be aware that it's only inverting it for this portion of it. As we get through other portions of this, when you're going to put in a lever or a light or something like that, you need to invert it for each of the systems that you invert it for. So there's an advantage to doing it, changing the wiring over just doing it in this system. But just be aware of it. You can do it either way. The other thing you see here is edit, and we're going to talk about edit when we get to command here. Again, you're seeing the same basics you got here. You can add a comment. You actually have a free cell. You can add quite a bit of text in here. Again, you have the inverted button right here. We get to feedback. I don't have feedback on my layout. If you do have feedback, you can use that. The advantage of that is when you start up JMRI and open up the panel and all this, this will be filled in already. You won't get that unknown state because it will actually give it a feedback because it's getting data coming into the system. So again, that's up to you if you want to do that. I'll leave it for you to decide what you want to do. I don't use it, so not the end of the world. Locks. This gives you the ability to lock out push buttons or cab buttons, and you have control over that. So you can lock them out. So if you want to lock out the cabs and you have to actually push a button, then you would simply hit the cabs only, and then you would not be able to access that except through the push buttons. Or you can do push buttons only, and that way any of the turnouts on your layout won't operate when somebody pushes a button. It just basically prevents it. Again, there's the accessory decoders and all that stuff available to you. I'm not getting involved in this. I don't use this. I basically, I will say this. I do use the cab lockouts if I'm using the CTC panel for operations, so just being aware. This is the spring at which the turnouts will be thrown. I've never used this. I have servos and I use Tam Valleys. I program that ahead of time, so I just don't use it. Usage, this is just, you know, it provides information. You can type in text in there. I'm not, you know, so you can put in a location. If you've got a real large layout, this might be really handy because you can use this while you have a username over here and you can have comments. This might actually tell you if you break your layout down, you can actually break it down and give it some information, in particular with JMRI. And properties, I've never used this and it doesn't matter, so we're just going to go on from there. So that's what that is. So once I've got this controlled and I can control my turnouts, clicking these and they're in the correct position, the thrown or straight, I'm now ready to do a panel. So I'm just going to close this up and go to panel and go to new. Now I use panel editor. I've played around a little bit with layout editor. Basically you draw a layout, your layout, and you can, it's really good for small layouts. If you have a large layout like I'm doing or a CTC panel, you're going to use panel editor. I've never used control panel editor, so I don't know anything about it. I'm not going to profess to be an expert on it. I use panel editor. So we're going to just open this up and use this. And this is the basic panel that you're going to work with. Now this area here that you start with, this is going to be based on your screen and how big your screen is. So if you have a 24-inch monitor, then it's going to be this size here. So just a heads up, if you work in a large monitor and then you go take this to a small monitor, you're going to run into some problems because this entire program here is based on the monitor that you're working on. So one of the things I do is I make sure my monitors are the same size that I'm working on. So that's why when I'm doing a lot of the stuff, I work on the monitors that are actually out in the layout room so that everything fits up perfectly. So just be aware of that. That's a little quirk that's here. The other thing I'd recommend is if you're doing this, have multiple monitors. You've seen my layout room. You know that I have 3 monitors on my layout. It's really handy to build a layout because I can take all these things and move them off to the side. I have this whole working area that I can work with, and I have all my controls and buttons over on my second monitor. So I'll be doing that. I'll show you one time how I do different things, and then I'm going to slide it over to the side so I can actually work on what I'm doing. So anyway, the next thing I'm going to do is, and I recommend this highly, is set a panel name, and you can do that by either clicking this button, or what I prefer to do is just save the panel. And you can see here I've got some panels already listed here. I'm going to use this video example one because that's what we're doing. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to overwrite it, but you can simply type it in there, and voila, I now have a panel, and this is now called video video example. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to, just so you know what there's different things here that you can check and uncheck. So you see on here, for example, I have scroll bars. If I want to, I can remove those scroll bars by simply saying no scroll bars, and now they're gone. So I'm going to have to work right in this area right here, which is perfectly fine for this example, so we're going to leave it like that. The next thing you're going to do, and each of these have different tasks. You can get rid of the panel menu up at the top, and you can stop the tools, show items, tips for tools. You can remove that if you want to, or you can add it or whatever you want to. I'm going to remove it because it's disturbing while I'm doing the video. So anyway, from here, we're going to start by working on building our panel. Now, one of the things I like to do is I like my background. My track is white because I'm using a 1959 CTC panel. So I want my track is going to be white, and when you select an icon on here, it kind of throws it in the corner or wherever you last click. So I find it really handy if I turn this background to a black color. Also, I think it makes it look nicer when that is in that color. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select a background. So I can go down here and I can select backgrounds. Now this is going to pop up here for just a minute, and then it's going to disappear, and don't worry about it. So select a background. This is an icon. Now there are 2 different types of icons in JMRI. There's animated icons, and then there's just plain icons. And in this case here, the background is basically a plain icon, and a background is always located in the back. It's always the farthest point that you're going to deal with. So you can create your own little icons if you want to. I'll show you. I've got one from my railroad here, and we'll add that into here. But one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this icon. So I hit change icon, and this is basically the main panel that you work with. And if you go here to icon directories, you're going to see that if you click on icons, we're going to come down here, and I'm going to select a USS panel, and I'm going to select panels. Whoop, that's not the right one. I want this one here. There we go. This is the one I want. So there's a lot of different things. As JMRI people add different things into there, you can just simply add, they'll add icons and things like that, and they're available to you. Again, this is a free software. So here's a complete panel. This is a dual 15, so it's got 15 spots on here. You could simply select that, slide it up there, and you could add it to the panel, and voila, there it is right there. But that's not really what I want to do, because that's not really helping anybody with how we do this. So I'm going to remove this icon, and I'm going to come back to the icon, and I'm going to simply build a panel. Now, just to be aware of it, you'll see here it says blank panel 7, blank panel 8. If you go down here a little farther, you're going to get to blank panel 9s. I have a 24-inch monitor here, so I'm going to want to use a panel 9 because that's going to give me the best feel. And I'm going to start on the left, so I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to drag it up to there. All right, click and drag it up to there, and I add it to the panel. Now I'm going to slide this off to the side for now. one of the things you can do with this is you can grab this panel and you can move it around. And the way you grab it is you hold down the control button and right click. That activates it, and now, whoop, hit it again. And I can then drag it to wherever I want it to go by holding the control and the right button. Because I'm going to build a smaller panel, I'm going to kind of try and center this up in the thing, into my screen here. Now, if you're going to build a big panel, you might want to use the whole length of it here. If you're going to use a smaller panel, you can move it wherever you want to kind of set it up so it looks best for you. This is a choice situation. Okay, so once I've got that, I'm going to now drag this back over here so we can see this. And I'm now going to add a number 9 blank panel. And I'm going to add it. Now if you noticed, drag this out of the way, it shifted it up here instead of being where I want it. I can simply right click and drag it down to here, and voila. And it's a little challenging, but I can get it lined up. Reversely, if you don't want to do that, I'm going to select all of these here, and I'm going to select all these. I'm going to remove them all, and I'm going to come back to here, and I'm going to add again that left panel. I'm going to add it, and if I leave it there, I can actually, as long as I match it up to the top, okay, so I can set it up just like so. The next panel I add, a number 9 blank, when I add it, will automatically attach it to the next location right there. Okay, so there they are right there, and they're automatically. So there is an advantage to letting it sit up at the top like that. And now I'm just going to add some more panels. So we're going to add, let's say, a number 9 with a switch and a signal. Even though I'm not going to do signals today, I'm just going to add that so you can see it right there. And then I'm going to add, another blank panel maybe. Maybe I'll add 2 of them. And then I'm going to add another panel with a switch signal. And then another blank one. And then a right side to the panel. Okay? There's my panel. That's all it is. That's my background of my panel. Now, what takes the most effort is to actually plan how many spots you need here. Turnouts, signals, blank panels. And you can add to a panel if you want to. So for instance, if let's say I built this whole panel and it's now several years later, and I want to add another signal or a turnout in this location here, I can actually come into JMRI. Let me grab my icon here, and I can select a plate, and I can get a base plate. So if I want to turn out, there they are. There's turnouts, there's signals, and I can actually then say drag this up to here, add to panel, and there it is, and I can drag this right down to where I want it. There you go. I've added it, and I can add it, then the lever and everything in place. Okay. Whoop. So that's what you can do with that. So don't feel restricted. Kind of think of where you're going to go. You can add to it. The problem with the backdrop, if you did this and you wanted to add more plates onto this, it can be a little challenging. You can do it and remove this end and then keep adding, and you can move these all around. So it is possible. But kind of think ahead of time what you want to do. Okay, one of the things I recommend, highly recommend, is that you lock your backgrounds into place. Because as we're working with different items here, you're going to find that we'll move them around. So the best thing to do is come up here, just right click with the control button, hit lock. That's not going to move anymore. And then I can do the same here. I know it's incredibly exciting to watch me lock each one of these, but I don't want them moving during the video, so We're going to lock them down in a position. Alrighty. One more here. Oh, got an end piece too. Okay. So there you go. Those are locked. No matter how I try, I can't move those around. I can't grab them. I can't do anything because it's locked. Okay. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start by building our panel track. Now track, I'm going to move this off to the side here. This is going to change. This is what I call my icon. This is a non-animated. I simply select what I want and I stick it on there. So an example is one of the things I do on my panels is I put the logo of my railroad on here, and I have them right here. I select the icon I want, I drag it up to here, and I simply add it to the panel. There you go. It's now added to the panel, and I can shift and move that wherever I want to, right like so. Okay, voila. Now I have an icon, and this is just a JPEG that I've actually added into here, so I use JPEG software to basically edit it to make it smaller, larger. If I'm not happy with it, I can make it smaller, whatever I want to do. And I just simply then save that and I add it into the files that are in JMRI to save that, and I can pull it up from there. So that's all of that has to do. So anyway, let's go back to adding some track here. So I'm going to right click here. I'm going to add an item. I'm going to add an icon. Track is an icon. This right and left hand turnout is an animated icon. We're going to do that next, but right now I just want to add an icon, and it's going to be track. Now, you've seen this page before, and when I hit add and I change the icon, it's going to go back to this panel here. Now, because I clicked on add icon, no, I'm going to say no. It's right here, and I don't want that one, so I'm going to remove it. So this is the reason why I use two panels, because if I already have this open, I can go right down here to track segments, and here's my track segments right here. Now, these are non-animated track segments, and you have a lot of different choices here. You've got this style. You can go over here to the USS style, and you can hit I'm looking for it. Just hang on here. Track. Here it is. And you can use this style. This is the style I use, and it has crossovers and everything like that. Now, if you're not going to animate your turnouts, you can just simply use an icon, and these icons will actually work. So I'll give you an example here. This is a right hand, so if I want to, I can simply, that's a scissor, close, inconsistent. Oh, I know. I can go down here to them. There's different segments. That's why I say you got to take a look at what you want here. So I can just simply select the track icon I want, and I can put it into place, and I'm going to change this to dark because it makes it easier to see. And these are my icons. These are the white track markers, and I can select these. If I go over here to the turnouts here, I'm going to select going northeast one. Again, I get these same turnouts. So if I just want an icon of a turnout, I can just simply put that up there. That's a non-animated icon. I could just add that. In the case of what I'm doing here, we're going to create a straight piece of track. So I'm going to select blocks. And they have blocks at 45s. Now these panels are exactly like they would have been painted on the surface there. So I'm going to simply add just a regular block, and I'm going to add it to the panel. And I'm going to pull this off to the side, and you won't see that again because I'm going to just until I'm ready to do the next thing. So I can take this right here, grab the segment, and I'm going to move it into my panel. And we're going to do a simple siding here. So the next one I want to add here is I want to add an animated icon. So I'm going to add a, let's see here, this will be a right hand turn, I believe. And you can see that it goes to this default, and you can see already my plates that are in here. So we're going to call this T1, and we're going to change the icon. And I like to use these track segments here. And again, this is preference. There's a lot of different styles of track segments. You can see there's another one right up here above it. And you can select these types, and they can actually change colors. The segment all changes colors. That's really what you want to do. But I'm doing 1959, so I'm going to just use these simple white ones. But I am going to animate them because it makes it easier for my dispatcher to see what's going on. So I'm going to click on right. This happens to be, it's going to be traveling east. So I'm looking for an east. I believe that's correct. Yeah, my dark in there? It is. So I'm going to start with my close. And I'm going to drag it up to there. And then my throne, that goes up to here. Now, because it's animated and because it's telling us some information, we have two other states that it can be. There's an unknown state, we'll drag that up into there, and a inconsistent state. The inconsistent state really goes more to feedback and what you've got. In this case, I don't have that, but I still put that icon in there because it helps everybody go into there. Now, I'm going to add, it's already been added because I already identified that this was going to be the #1 turnout. If I hadn't selected the #1 turnout from the template there, I could actually type in what I want. But because I already selected it, it's already there. I can simply just add it to the panel, and we're going to just take and drag this animated out of the way, and there it is right there. And I'm going to take and drag this up and connect it to the segment. There you go. Now, right now, I can actually throw the turnout on the layout. And I'll show you how. I simply click like that. And that turnout on the layout should already be going. So it should be diverged at this point in time, and now it's closed on the through route. So I can actually go and see that at this point in time in the layout, and that's going to tell me, hey, it's already working. It's kind of handy because you already know what's going on. So now I'm going to add just some more track here. So I'm going to just simply add the track. This is just a straight piece here. Yep, I got to grab it. There we go. And I'm just going to line it up. This is the tedious part of the whole process. Okay, and I'm going to add another one. And I'm going to add another one. Now, I'm going to assume that this diverging route, this siding, I have in a separate block. So there is a icon on the icons, and I'm not going to show you, you'll see it here in just a minute, is what they call a gap. And I'm going to select that gap. I'm going to add it to the panel. There's the gap. And I use this so that all my gaps are the same width, and so the dispatcher and everyone looking at it can recognize right off the bat, oh, that's a new block right there, and I can stick it into there, and it's in a separate block. Now, if you put blocks in your layout, that's really kind of handy because you can identify the blocks right away, and you can then in turn just kind of keep working, and it just makes it easier for everybody all the way around if everybody knows what you're looking at. And so that's how I kind of just set up these separate blocks. And we're going to add to panel another one here. And add to panel another one. So this is the tedious part of drawing this all out. And you can add multiple tracks like this. And if you're really talented, you could take and whoop. You can grab them all at one time. And you can move the whole segment just like so. Okay. Now, it's a little longer than I want, so I'm going to grab this segment here. I'm going to drop it down to here. And I think I'll grab the segment here and do the same thing. And now I'm going to add another turnout. So again, it's going to be animated. This time it's going to be a left turnout. And this left turnout's going west. So I simply do the same thing again. I select my closed and my thrown and my unknown and inconsistent. And I'm selecting the turnout that it's going to control. And there it is. Now, before I even go in here, I can check it and make sure it's working. I can go like this, and that second turnout should be functioning and matching that. If it does, then I can simply just take this up into here and add it there. And then I'm going to go and add a gap again. And I need one more segment of track here. There we go. And you see I got a little gap there, so I'm going to go ahead and add another bit, and I'm just going to overlay it right over top of it so it looks correct. And then I'm going to add one more to finish out. There we go. That's all set. So now we have an totally animated portion of this screen here. And yes, you can control those turnouts from that location right there. Now we're going to work with these switches down here. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add a lever. So I'm going to go to right click here. I'm going to add an item. Now believe it or not, a lever is a turnout. Everything that controls a turnout is a turnout. So this first one is a right hand turnout. So we're going to select right hand turnout, and it's going to pop up here this screen. It's the same screen that you have at turnout, but this time now we're going to go to levers, and there's our levers. So again, dealing with this, I'm going to have a left is going to be the closed position. The right is going to be the thrown position. And then we again have a lever unknown and a lever inconsistent. So lever, and you can see these wides, and like it doesn't matter. Switch inconsistent, and I'm looking for an unknown. Okay, again, I'm going to attach this to the turnout that it is connected to. That's why it's a turnout. I'm going to add it to the table and add it to the panel. And there's my lever right there. And I'm going to slide it up into position. There we go. And now watch, when I click it, that turnout up at the top switches too, from normal to reverse. So now at this point in time, I want to make sure that when I switch this lever, that is exactly what is going on the layout. So when it's in the normal position, it's in this position. When it's in the reverse position or the thrown position, it goes to that direction right there. Now I'm going to show you a little trick here. I talked about locking earlier. You want to lock all this stuff into place so that nobody moves it around. So you can simply right click and hit lock into position. Now, that drawing will not move until somebody unlocks it and actually moves it. So there we go. Okay, so now we're going to add these two lights here. So in the normal position, this light would be green and this one would be dark. And in the reverse position, this would be yellow and this one would be dark. There's a lot of different ways to do it. That's how I'm setting it up. I'm not going to say it's exactly prototype, but it does help me in the long run. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to right click, I'm going to add an icon, and I'm going to select turnout again. Again, the reason for that is because I want these all to be connected to that turnout. So as you can see, I've got this set up here. So I've got my green lamp, which I dragged up into here in the closed position. In the thrown position, I want it dark. And then my unknown inconsistent, because when I start my panel up, it's going to be unknown. I want it to give me an alert, so these lights will flash when I go into here. And this is going to go for turnout number 1. That's the address to it. I add it to the table, and then I add it to the panel. And the table is that table that we keep building, and it keeps adding. JMRI just keeps adding to those tables as you add these icons, and it just simply keeps track of all this stuff. Once I get it into position and I'm happy with it, I can test it. So there it is. It's green, and it's in the through, and it's in the normal position. And when I hit reverse, it goes dark, and it's in reverse, and it says reverse. Next, we're going to add this icon right here. I don't have to do anything more than simply just change this icon. So I want this to be on in the thrown position. I want the dark in the closed position. And I still want these right the same. And again, it's all going to the same turnout. And we'll add to table. And then we add it to panel. And I'm going to slide this out of the way, and here it is right here. I drag it right down into place. And there you go. So there's on, off, look at that, and everything matches up. So you'll do the exact same thing for this turnout as well. And all I'm going to do now is I have a panel all set up. Now, this is set to be a hot switch. In a CTC panel, normally what you do is you would flip it to the position, the light wouldn't change. You'd flip it to a position, the light wouldn't change, and you hit your codex button, and it would then go and make sure all the standards are correct, and all the relays would fire off, and then it would actually, the lights would change, and you would know that the turnout had been turned. You can do that in JMRI. I'm not doing it at this point in time because that's a really involved process. This is just a simple way to build a panel. It's animated so you can look at it here and go, oh, I'm in the diverge route. I've got a separate block here. Oh, I want to just switch that to the normal. There you go. And it's actually controlling the layout. Okay, so one more very important thing, and I can't emphasize this enough. You need to save, and you need to save constantly. If you do not tell this thing to save the panel, you could actually close this thing out and it'll lose all the work you did. So I'm just going to be honest with you. Save and save often. The other thing I like to do, just a trick that I've learned, is if you look in here in the panels, we'll open one. I have the staging panel and a working panel, or what I actually do is I have what they call my working panel and my master panel. So what I do is my master panel is the last fully functioning panel that works. So if I do any experiments, I do it on the working panel, and I protect that master panel, so if everything goes bad, I can just pull that panel up and start all over again and recreate a working panel. So my working panel is the panel that I used for operations. It's what I use for everyday thing. The master panel is protected. It is the last known functioning panel that I didn't have any problems with. And that's pretty much what I do. So at this case, I'm going to save this as a master as well. Whoop, I got it in the open, but you would save it as a master as well, and it would be saved. So I have 2 copies of that file, a working one and a master one. In any case, that's how I use Panel Pro, Panel Editor. I hope that's helpful. There's a lot of different features that you can do in this that I haven't even gone into. But again, the idea was to kind of give you an idea of how to use Panel Editor and how to start a CTC board. Hope this is helpful to you. I hope you have a great month. And until next time, happy modeling.